Cole Thomas Allen, a 31-year-old resident of Torrance, California, was identified as the man at the center of the investigation that shook Washington. This Sunday, April 26, 2026. The case is no longer just about the scare at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It becomes about who he was. The man who, according to authorities, managed to get close to a protected area at one of the most closely watched political events in the United States. The question now is straightforward. How did someone with that profile manage to get so close to Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and members of the top ranks of the U.S. government? I'll tell you all about that in a moment, but right now, you'll want to be subscribed to the channel to stay well informed with real-time information in the best journalistic quality you've ever seen with the credibility standard of Milson Alvis. Based on the first public information, the suspect does not appear to be someone with no trail or no known background. On the contrary, Cole Thomas Allen comes up in the investigations as a man with a strong background, experience at major institutions, work as a part-time teacher, and a connection to game development. Reuters reported that he appears in public profiles as a graduate of Caltech, with experience in mechanical engineering, computer science, teaching, and game creation. This contrast is what makes the case even more unsettling. It's not a name completely unknown to the system, but someone who had a resume, a professional background, and a public presence. The identification shifts the focus of the story. The incident had already been seen as a possible assassination attempt against Trump, but now the investigation is starting to revolve around Allen. Who was he? What brought him to the Washington Hilton? Why was he there? How did he get in? How did he move around? And why, according to the authorities, did he move toward a secure area on a night when the president was in the building? These answers are still not finalized, but what has already come to light is enough to turn the case into a national security crisis. Washington Hilton, in Washington, was not just any place that night. The hotel was hosting the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, a traditional event that brings together the press, politicians, officials, and high-profile guests. Trump was there with Melania. J.D. Vance was also at the venue. Secretaries and government advisors were attending the event, and that's the gravity of the case. The suspect didn't attack an empty street, nor an unimportant common area. He showed up in an environment where some of the most protected people in American politics were gathered. According to Reuters, a security official identified Allen as a resident of the area. Washington police reported that investigators believe he was a guest at the hotel, but the motive had not yet been determined. This detail is explosive for the investigation because it puts the hotel at the center of the problem. If he was staying at the same venue as the event, the security breach question becomes even more pressing. A building open to guests, with hallways, rooms, entrances, and internal circulation, becomes a much bigger challenge when it houses the President of the United States. The version circulating among authorities is that Allen went through security areas and was stopped before reaching the main hall. A Secret Service agent was hit but was protected by the vest and left the hospital, according to Reuters. Trump later said he believed he was the target and stated that the suspect was likely a lone wolf based on initial information. Even so, this hypothesis does not settle the case. On the contrary, it increases the pressure to find out how one person acting alone managed to create such a serious breach at an event surrounded by authorities. Cole Thomas Allen's profile is now being thoroughly examined. The Associated Press reported that social media posts and professional profiles that appear to match the suspect show a well-educated tutor and amateur game developer. He is said to have completed a master's degree in computer science, studied at California State University Dominguez Hills, and graduated in mechanical engineering from Caltech. The agency also mentioned that he worked for years at an academic preparation company and was even named Teacher of the Month. This profile, rather than easing concerns, makes the situation even more disturbing. The public image was of someone educated, well-trained, a teacher, connected to technology and education. But the investigated action points to something serious, planned or, at the very least, carried out with the intention of breaking through a layer of protection, and that's where the alarm is raised. Not every threat is obvious. Sometimes it emerges hidden behind a resume, academic background, and an apparently ordinary life. Associated Press also reported that Allen contributed $25 to a Democratic political committee in support of Kamala Harris's 2024 presidential campaign. This information has already entered the political debate, especially among Trump's allies, because it reinforces the view that the suspect did not come from the conservative side. It's important to separate the fact from the conclusion. A single donation alone does not explain an assassination attempt. But in the current political environment in the United States, this detail has become immediate fuel for those who see the attack as a result of radicalization against Trump. In the reports now circulating, another point stands out. The suspect reportedly maintained a presence on professional and digital platforms with references to education, technology, game development, and academic background. This fuels an even harsher interpretation for the pro-Trump camp. The threat against Trump did not come from a distant border, nor from a foreign group immediately identified. It came, according to the initial investigation, from within America itself, from a citizen with access, background, and the ability to move around without raising immediate suspicion. That's where the incident takes on political weight. Trump had already been saying that he is the target of a campaign of permanent hostility. After this case, his allies began to see the identification of Allen as further proof that the rhetoric against the president can leave social media, cross into public debate, and reach the real world. The investigation still needs to determine the motivation, but the narrative has already been formed. Trump was once again put under threat, and the newly identified name puts a face to the threat. Security is also called into question. The Secret Service acted quickly when the danger appeared. But the troubling question is another. Why was the danger able to get that far? The role of presidential security is not just to react, it's to prevent anyone from getting close, to stop it earlier, to cut off access, to close the breach. When the armed suspect manages to cause panic at an event with Trump, Melania, J.D. Vance, and members of the government, a quick reaction saves lives, but it doesn't erase the previous failure. According to The Guardian, Trump stated that the Washington Hilton was not a particularly secure building and used the incident to advocate for the construction of a safer hall at the White House. For Trump, the night showed that relying on a hotel with an open layout and hard-to-control foot traffic can be far too dangerous for a president under constant threat. The case also brings back memories of Ronald Reagan, who was shot outside the same hotel in 1981. The comparison is not minor. The Washington Hilton had already been marked by an attack against an American president. Now it's back at the center of the story, because of another episode involving a president at risk. For Trump's allies, this reinforces the idea that certain places carry known vulnerabilities and that security should have been even tighter. The investigation should now look into Allen's digital life. His records, movements, accommodations, communications, purchases, entries, and contacts. It should also analyze whether he acted alone or if he was influenced by any political or ideological environment. Trump mentioned a lone wolf, but that expression still needs to be supported by evidence. In cases like this, the first response is usually quick, but the complete truth comes out gradually. The American government will also have to answer questions about protocol. Was there enough control in the hallways? Was there an adequate barrier for guests? Should the hotel have been completely closed? Were the internal access points checked with the necessary rigor? These questions will haunt the investigation, because the presence of Trump requires a different logic. When the president is present, the building becomes a sensitive area. From now on, the name Cole Thomas Allen should appear in new reports, court documents, and official statements. The case doesn't end with the arrest, it begins with it. The house connected to him in Torrance is already on the media's radar. Social networks and public profiles have become sources for investigation. Teachers, colleagues, political records, and professional history will be analyzed. All of this is to try to piece together the path that led a man from California to the center of a night of panic in Washington. In the end, the alleged perpetrator was identified, but the threat he revealed is bigger than his own name. Cole Thomas Allen is now the face of the attack. The attack failed. Trump survived. But the identification of the suspect has opened a crisis that will still bring a lot of scrutiny. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves news community.